Test. Pro-life advocates and vegans, congratulations, you're going to win. Abortion rights advocates and meat eaters, you're going to lose, but you're going to be totally okay with losing when you find out why. Good morning, wanderers. We are alive outside, lakeside, on Wanderer Radio. I am Oz. Thank you for joining me. It's kind of a controversial sounding title that I picked, but it's important to note here that I chose two issues on the kind of extremes of political ideologies in an effort to reach across the aisle. I should mention before going into this that I personally am not a vegan. I eat meat, and I don't really have a strong stance on the abortion issue. So just think of me as apolitical in regards to the politics of it. What I'm talking about here is evolution. And what I aim to offer is greater peace. And the issue of meat consumption and the issue of abortion, these are tricky, touchy issues. And consequently, our views and our beliefs and our understandings about them can be disharmonious. And we can be less peaceful. And one of my intentions with Wanderer Radio is to offer wanderers greater peace. That is prior to all else. And that's what I aim to do today, because whatever understanding you might hold about these issues, there's a possibility that that understanding might be somewhat disharmonious. It might involve conflict, and therefore there is a certain opportunity for greater peace there. Whatever beliefs you currently hold about these issues, the truth is those beliefs are unprovable and unfalsifiable, but they may just be what you've come to accept. What happens if you are then offered a different model articulated to you? Perhaps that model is also unprovable and unfalsifiable, but now you have two. And now you can engage your discernment and your free will to decide which one you willfully, consciously want to embrace as truth to be the reality you walk within. And therefore, in choosing, even if you're not involved really in these issues at all, you're still carrying beliefs about it. And so to carry beliefs about something that is greater peace makes you more peaceful. And so that's what I aim to do with these articulations. They may not resonate with you, and I can't prove them, but they come from the teachings. There's, thousands of books about this stuff. And I've consumed a lot of it, and so I consolidate and I present as I understand, as I've discerned, and hopefully it's of value to you and offers you greater peace. So let's take a breath here. And we'll get into this. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. Yep. Test. Okay. All right. So, an offer of greater peace through an articulation about these two issues coming from both sides of political spectrum. Everyone gets a win. Let's start with the meat eaters and the vegans. The reason that the vegans are going to win is because we know that we are on an evolutionary pathway of accelerating frequency of mind. That means that the apes or the ape people were operating on a lower frequency of mind. And a typical ape, you might notice, is hundreds of pounds, 500, 600 pounds. As the frequency of our mind has accelerated through evolution, the body or the vessel that contains, that houses that mind, accelerates with it. And in the accelerating, sheds material, not similar to, but exactly the way a snake sheds its skin. And very slowly, in our way of seeing time, evolution unfolds, and the chemical, physical vehicle, if you will, becomes lighter and less material, less chemical, less minerals, less fluid, less liquid, less electricity, less light. It becomes lighter, enlightened. As the mind enlightens, the body enlightens to keep up. Mind is prior to body, so the body will reflect the mind. So as the mind is increasing in frequency, the body is shaking off more and more material, so to speak, getting lighter and lighter and lighter. So as this process continues, again, perhaps over millions of years, maybe in a very short time, I don't know, but the indications are such that we are evolving toward what the texts have been saying for thousands of years, this idea of ethereal beings, luminous beings, beings of light. There's no difference between them and us except time. And they are operating on an extremely high frequency of mind. Therefore, the vessel that they occupy is not made of very much. It's not made of heavy chemicals. It's made of it's lighter and lighter. It's becoming and in a broad graduation from physical to luminous. If you want to embrace a Western material science term, holographic, you can there we have a holographic beingness to ourselves ever and always. But in addition, we are multi-layered like an onion, so to speak. So it is also part of our current experience that we have a physical chemical vessel as we understand it. And this vessel has mass and weight. And this is the body, the chemical body enlightens over time. So over millions of years of evolution, we as an entire humanity since we are on a pathway of increasing frequency of mind that is toward enlightenment of the body as well, that means we will move from our current state of meat eating to pescatarianism, then vegetarianism, then veganism, and then eventually we will graduate from veganism into a consumption of, this comes from the texts, a consumption of a liquid or a broth type of diet until we don't even need that anymore, and we are essentially fed by light and of light and exist as light. So of course this is all esoteric, and this is all in the teachings and in the writings that all require discernment in and of themselves. So I am just sharing aggregations of what I have encountered and what resonates as true. But more important, using my free will and my discernment, I can choose as true to embrace such things, and perhaps that brings me greater peace to do so. Because if this articulation resonates, what it really means is, let me wander for a moment to go just prior to both of these issues to something more fundamental, which is the fact that it wouldn't be accurate to look around our society and say certain beings are more evolved than other beings. The reality is we're more like a video game character with an infinite number of parameters. And as such, some of our parameters will be more enlightened than the masses. But other parameters that we have, where we haven't had the experience or gained the wisdom, we might be far less enlightened than the masses. So to say somebody is more evolutionarily thinking or enlightened on a particular issue, that's not meant to be an ego thing or to get all excited about or think it's a big deal or a victory or an us versus them or anything like that. I wandered, and now I have to wander back. Here's what I think is important regarding the peace. Here's what's important regarding the peace, regardless of which side you come down on the vegan meat eater issue. The peace comes in two ways. For the vegan, the peace can come in the understanding that there's absolutely no need to advocate. There's no need to convert. There's no need to worry about changing this reality or changing this place or seeing it as broken. It's none of those things. It's simply at a certain place in its evolution. As a vegan, you might be more future sighted, and therefore you might be of a more enlightened mind when it comes specifically to our food consumption. That doesn't mean all other issues. But when it comes to our food consumption, when you look into the future and you see us as a people who don't eat meat, you are correct. But without doing a single thing, without being frustrated with your brothers and sisters, are they slowing down your evolution? Are your brothers and sisters keeping you from the paradise of non-meat eating that could be there if only they would see this your way? Well, they're moving there at a gentler speed. You might call it the consensus speed, while you are heading there at a much more accelerated speed. The consensus speed is gentler for the society as a whole. And while that might be frustrating for you on the vegan issue, in all likelihood, you need some evolution on some other stuff. You got some other video game sliders that are skewed and could use some fixing. And those are areas where you would be thankful that there is a consensus speed and you are being handled gently in your blind spots, so to speak. So without lifting a finger, without being an advocate, not to say that's wrong or bad or whatever, people like to espouse their ideas. It's not that. What I'm saying is, if you are conflicted within yourself because you believe that you have to do this to save the world, to save everybody, this articulation says you ain't not gots to do nothing. This is already happening through evolution. You've already won, and it's going to take lifetimes upon lifetimes for us to get where we're going, which is only going to be a stepping stone anyway. So why not be patient? Love your meat-eating brother and sister. Yes, they are evolutionarily behind you if you want to see it that way. Yes, you are going to win. Fair enough, they're going to lose. But if you are frustrated with the speed at which this is happening, you have disharmony within you, and you can relieve yourself of that. You can liberate yourself of that. You can come to complete peaceful terms with the meat eaters in realizing that it's simply a place in evolution. And we are moving through it. We are not stuck in it. We are moving through it. And if this articulation brings anybody greater peace, awesome. Yeah. And for the meat eaters, the good news is they don't have to worry about losing a fight. It's not going to be a sad loss. It's not going to be deprivation. It's not going to be forced against will. This is just going to happen over time. The vessels are all accelerating all across the planet. They're all getting lighter with enough time. With enough time, meat eating goes away because nobody desires to do it anymore. It's not any lack. It's not any loss. It need not be any sacrifice for anybody, and it's still going to go away because no one's going to want it evolutionarily. Everyone wins, actually. But the one who wins the most is you, if you are currently conflicted and could choose to discern greater peace from the articulation I just offered you. Let's move on to abortion. Sorry, Wanderers. Test. I did order an extender for this audio cable, so this won't happen. All right. Pro-lifers, you're going to win. And I'll just shortcut to the key part there. You ain't done not gotta do nothing. You ain't gotta do nothing. It's gonna take a while. Quite possibly more than your lifetime or several lifetimes. If you want to keep coming here and advocating or living in disharmony or conflict about it, you can, but it's already over. Because the frequency of mind is on an evolutionary path of increasing. And what does this mean? Well, here is my articulation. Again, it comes from the texts. It comes from a zillion books. It has no physical evidence that I can present. The question is resonance. Does it resonate on the table for your discernment? Because whatever your present belief system is regarding the abortion issue, there's a chance it's offering you conflict. Is there conflict in your heart related to the abortion issue? Would you like to relieve that conflict? Would you like to find peace? Either side of the issue. Well, I'm going to offer greater peace, and you can choose. What the texts describe as to our suspicions regarding there being a here before and a hereafter, we are correct. There is. We were there before, and we will be there after. In fact, for all practical purposes, what we call the hereafter is actually the true reality. And this is where we go for learning and adventure. This is a boot camp for the soul, so to speak. And so we have chosen to come here. We've chosen to do work. But if you want to really boil it down to brass tacks, that place where we know of all of our incarnational experiences, that's the real reality. This is the experience that we're having now. All of this is to say that as the frequency of mind increases and our intuition and our sense of feeling, as our hearts open to a greater extent, our capacity to communicate increases orders of magnitude. What people currently do as praying to entities, and a bunch of people in our global society would say that's woo-woo, you're not doing anything, there's nobody there. Well, what we're going to come to find out with our accelerating frequency is that, in fact, yes, you can. Yes, we can reach across the permeable seeming boundaries of this reality and connect to entities beyond it, advanced entities in many cases, and we can communicate with them. This includes our present idea of praying to those who have passed on. So we believe that there are those people who we have known in this reality, and they passed on. But many of us believe that we can still communicate with them. This, of course, is true. We can. And the reason is because each and every one of us is 100% mind, 0% body. So yes, the body and the story of that dreamed experience did come to a conclusion, and that can feel like a loss. But in truth, it was never anything about the physical that you loved about the person. It was the mind and the heart you loved all along, and that went with them and still exists. So with increasing frequency, we come to learn with greater and greater visceral accuracy and truth. The concept even of seeing those who have passed in some sort of ethereal or quasi-physical state, these things are going to come to be understood more as the normal and natural way of our beingness as we evolve. And again, this could take millions of years. I don't know. Could take a while. Could happen fast. But the point is, as that communication from here to the hereafter becomes more tangible, so to speak, becomes more of a truth that is accepted by the consensus reality. And all of a sudden, it's no big deal that you're talking to your passed on relatives. That's the way that our reality blends into the truth over a very long time. So suddenly seeing ghosts won't be quite the quite the big deal that it is to us today. Through evolution, we're going to understand this, and we're going to blend and blend and blend until the consensus reality is brought into alignment with eternity. So let's bring this over to the here before. The point of all this is to say that not only are we going to engage in communication with those in the hereafter, but we will also be engaging in communication with those in what we would currently, for lack of a better term, we might call the here before. In other words, those entities, like in the movie Soul, that are waiting for their opportunity to open, to incarnate into this place. They are the incoming. They are in what we would call the here before. Well, we will be able to communicate with those in the here before to a greater and greater, more tangible extent as the frequency of mind evolves gently over time to arrive in this place. Now, let me contextualize something here. I'm going to wander. I just looked at the clock. I've got time. I think this is a good wandering. This is going to be a great envisioning. So stick with me here, friends. This is going to be a fun one. All right. Just wander with me for a moment here. In the reality that is on the other side of this one, what I was just referring to as the truer reality, keep in mind, you don't have any biological relationships there. You don't have any biology. You don't have any gender. You don't actually have any finite form. You are in a state of willingly choosing whatever form you might want. If you wanted to, for example, get together with people you knew from Earth, you might choose to render yourself in your earthly form. Perhaps that's the dress code of the occasion. Please come in your earthly form. So all, as a reminder to all. I don't know how it works. But let's just suppose for a moment, at some level of this hereafter, you understand yourself as an orb of light. And within this realm, all other entities are also orbs of light. One could say that there aren't any biological relationships, there aren't any hierarchical relationships. In truth, every single entity is a child of the Creator. And we would then understand absolutely every other child of the Creator as brother and sister or friend, or other entity to love. But none have any greater or lesser potentiality than any other. All are absolutely equal, absolutely perfect fractals of the Creator, each expressing uniquely. That, of course, is happening here, but we are highly distorted and we don't see that, so we judge each other, when actually all we're seeing is evolution, and we should be kind and peaceful and not judgmental and loving. So, do familial relationships evolve in this place? We're still wandering in this realm of the orbs of light. Are there familial relationships there? There are. What is happening in this plane of existence is that articulations, so to speak, almost like neurons or thought centers, are sharing understandings, wisdoms, concepts, perhaps distortions about what is Creator in nature and what is creation. Understanding that the creation is the activity of the creator. The creation is that which is imagined by the mind, the creator, but still understanding that there is infinite wisdom to be gained regarding the creation. And so there are those in this realm articulating, so to speak, creation and creator. Over time, of course, when you are acting as the learned teacher and others are acting as the teach learner, and there is always an entity available to be the teach learner and you to be the learned teacher. Whoever that entity is that you regard as your teach learner, that which most consistently, most accurately articulates the creator in the way that resonates with you, you would be said to gravitate toward that resonance, to consume it with greatest consistency. And in this realm of existence, that entity articulating for you creator is what you would know as Father. Perhaps a different entity having also for you the greatest and most solid resonance of articulation of the creation, you will gravitate toward and consume that resonance the most. That entity is what you will know as Mother. So what we see as familial relationships down here are a reflection of something prior to, in a more fundamental level. At that, even that plane of existence, there are familial ties and ideas that we would know as mother and father. They just aren't biological. They are nonetheless reflected here, as are all spiritual truths. And all of this is to say, if these teachings from the text resonate, then another truth will probably resonate as well. And the truth is this: that which on that plane of existence you most identify with as mother and father, intuitively we would understand these entities would likely be highly advanced of you. And that's fine. With time, you will be them. So it doesn't matter. But that advancement means that it's extremely unlikely that these two entities that you personally remember, not everyone's going to think, a lot of people might choose the same entity as father, but they might choose different mothers. So this combination is somewhat unique to you. The odds that these two highly advanced entities would choose to wander at the same time, take the form of entities that then got married and had a child in order for you to incarnate there, makes it very unlikely that this relationship on the other side will manifest the same way down here. All of this is just to say that once we enter the world of incarnation and how it truly manifests, things aren't ideal in that way. They're very different. They can be everything from the most planned to the most random. It's an infinite creation. Incarnation is infinite. However, once we as a society, and now I wander back, once we as a society come to understand that prayer isn't fiction and that this kind of non-physical communication is real, and that our reality as we know it is permeable between what we consider the hereafter and the here before. And with that permeability into the here before comes a level of communication we don't have now. And with that level of communication, we arrive at a place of what we could call conscious conception. This is from the teachings. There is no physical evidence that proves it. It's for your discernment. We we evolve because we are increasing frequency of mind. The increased frequency of mind evolves toward greater and greater contact with the hereafter and the here before. And with that contact with the here before, we arrive at what will initially be a percentage of the society engaging in conscious conception, while the other part of society is still evolving. They're still moving different sliders. We're all unique. But some will evolve toward conscious conception until the entirety of the society engages in conscious conception, and only conscious conception, involving a very long history of communication with the incarnating entity. So, is that true? Well, your discernment will tell you if that's true or not, but I will say this. It's very peaceful, because what it means is that in truth, the pro-life or the pro-abortion rights advocate could choose to be completely peaceful with that which they currently view as the enemy, because this will all be handled with evolution, but that evolution is going to take a long time. How many lifetimes do you want to spend in that conflict? You can, in some effort that you give meaning to accelerate it one way or another, you can choose to place your meaning and energy into that, and there's nothing wrong with it. All I'm saying is that it involves conflict, and therefore it is a less peaceful way for you to exist. It might be the right way for you. It might be like an issue that you're like, I ain't giving up on this. I got a lot invested in this. I really care about this issue one way or another. This is life and death. And I think my creator wants me to fight for this. That's okay. I don't have any physical evidence that disproves that. So I'm not challenging anyone's belief systems that they currently hold. I'm simply asking if we might agree that one is more peaceful than the other. So in that way, to bring this back to the original conceit of what I started with, if we continue on the path of evolution that we are currently on toward accelerating mind, the vegans and the pro-life people will win evolutionarily. The abortion choice advocates and the meat eaters will lose evolutionarily, and nobody's going to be bothered by this. We're all going to be perfectly okay with where we are when we get there, and we're going to be okay with the fact that it was a process and it took time. On my last broadcast, a user named Lila had a comment, and I still got a bit of time here. So Lila had a comment regarding feeling like this was her last incarnation. Is there a way to know? I believe she may have asked. And so I want to address that idea. Firstly, I'm going to suggest that anybody who's asking themselves that question, if one is asking themselves, is this my last incarnation? That sounds a bit like a wanderer to me. At the very least, by the time you are asking if this is your last incarnation, even if this was your first run through the 3D third density mind, so to speak, and you just graduated and now you're awake, even in that awakened state here for what I'm calling a first-time graduate, let's say you came in third density in the true sense and awakened, that basically ultimately in effect the same as a wanderer. You're basically wandering at that point because you're still here. And why are you still here? Why don't you leave this place once you've found your way out of the maze, so to speak? Why are you still here? Because you are lighting the path. You don't get to the exit and then bolt to your car. You get to the exit and then you hang out there because you are the luminosity around the exit that leads the other people to it. The same luminosity that you followed to get there. Therefore, don't be a chump. That light was there for you. Now you woke up. Be okay with your place in this joint, even though you might observe the frequency here to be much lower than you, and that might be uncomfortable for you as a wanderer, but suck it up, bro. Suck it up. You chose to come here, and illuminate the path. Be the light at the exit from the maze. So anyway, all of that these are all wanderer things. These are things wanderers say. And all I can say in that is one, I don't really think we can know from here. I think it's tough, and I think we're biased by the experience that we're having. A wanderer, eternity is a very long time. And if you wandered here now, are you telling me in 300 years you wouldn't feel charged up for another go? 500 years, 1,000, 100,000 years, let's suppose you're hanging out in the hereafter. 100,000 years in the true reality, would never there be a call to incarnate again? I don't know. Don't really know how that works, but you're wandering now. And one could also advocate for the other side of it and saying, well, there has to be some point where even the wanderer, every wanderer has to reach a point where they're done wandering in this particular experience and they're moving on to something else. In other words, they have celebrated their last incarnation here. That's got to be true too. So nobody can really know. Certainly you'll make that determination when this work is done, and you'll have your reasons. I believe what is really speaking to us as wanderers when we say, I have a feeling this is my last incarnation. I think that's just weariness. I think we get weary while we're here because it takes us a lot of spiritual energy to be here. And by design of what we're doing and the work that we're doing, our frequency is not in harmony or sync with this place. In other words, it's draining. It's draining for the wanderer in a way that it's not for other entities. And so that feeling of draining that comes with the work that you give meaning to in service to your creator, but it's nonetheless draining, and therefore it leads to weariness. And that weariness can lead to a feeling of, I think this is my last incarnation. This is probably my last incarnation. I don't know. I don't think there is a way to know. But the fact is, if you accept that once you reach the end of the maze, so to speak, once you awaken from the 3D reality, if you accept that the role of the wanderer is to live as a model of peace, harmony, joy, to live as a model of what comes after awakening, that is the manner by which you act as the luminosity and you stand at the end of the maze to be the light for others. And if you see your role as that, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything to be that or achieve that or check that box other than stick around, not see this place as the place that just serves your awakening and now you're treading water or biding time. Don't think of it like that. Be the luminosity. Live in this place in love and laughter and joy and peace. regardless of whether or not it's your last incarnation, you can still choose to live out the one you're in now in this fashion. And if you determine that that is what you wish to do, and that is what you do, you'll find that it doesn't matter, and it's not going to matter whether or not it's your last one until this one's done anyway. So you can find yourself seated in a place of peace and joy and harmony, that you're doing what you're doing here in accordance with your grander plan. And maybe you don't understand the fullness of that right now, but neither do these geese, and they look like they're having an awesome time up there. It does seem like it would be cold, though. Wow, I fascinate at animals' capacity to deal with the cold. How do they do that? I'm going to venture to guess it involves mind, being prior to body, and frequency of mind. But that is quite a pathway. Wow, look at all those geese. Man, I hope y'all can see this stuff with this little webcam. Well, I am Oz, and I thank you, wanderers, for joining me today, live, outside, lakeside, on Wanderer Radio. Until next time, in the love and light of the infinite creator.